Hi Napalm Tube. I watched your video, Give the Anarchist a Cigarette, and I wanted to respond. You seem to ramble a lot in your video, but one of the underlying themes that I noticed in your video was this idea that people make devils out of ideas they don't agree with and gods out of ideas they do. And they do this in order to concretize their ideas into a paradigm of good versus evil, of love versus hatred, to give themselves a greater sense of righteousness in their ideals. And because people do this, they are incapable of seeing the world as it really is and viewing people with differing opinions with compassion. Now, I think that this is a pretty lofty claim for somebody who claims that he is full of shit. I can kind of see where you're coming from in that people do seem to like empathy and compassion for people with differing views. However, just because you think that something is a good idea does not mean that you have made a god of the concept impervious to further analysis. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll hate people with opposing views. However, if you hold, for instance, not murdering as a value, then it seems reasonable that the act of murder should disgust you. And I think that actions determine who a person is, and if somebody consistently acts in a way that is in direct opposition to your values, I think that it is consistent with your own values to hate the person. And I don't think that this hatred means that you have a distorted view of reality. But I think that you know this, and I think this because after making your case, the one that I just talked about, you went on to say that we all generally regard greed and selfishness as vices. Now, whether or not this is true, I think that you regard greed and selfishness as vices, and you also mentioned that you were disgusted by the denial of human life. Therefore, it follows that you are disgusted by people you perceive to be denying this human life, the maniacs on Washington and Wall Street. It's pretty clear to me that these ideas are important to you, and that you've thought a lot about this. I really think that you do a disservice to yourself by claiming that you're full of shit. You're thinking about things, and you're talking about things, and I really don't think that you should belittle yourself for this. And by extension, I don't think that you should belittle other people for this, by claiming that we're all full of shit.